All right, it is Monday night. It is a playoff Monday night. Regular season over, in the trash, kicked to the curb, put behind us. It is time now to talk about the Patriots playing the Chargers. Next Sunday night, Peacock, NBC. Please don't encourage the corporate overloads. Just watch on NBC. You don't need to buy the subscription. You can borrow somebody else's. Anyway, before we get to that, we have a lot to get to with Mike Giardi here in another episode of the Pats Interference Podcast, part of the magnetic, multi-talented, multi-platform, multicultural, multiverse believing, multi-purpose having, multi-milkshakes on a rainy day when you're just a little down, but actually it's okay. The Patriots are back in the playoffs. Save that DQ for the offseason when it's hot, and we don't have a Mike Giardi Monday when you'll actually be sad, dare we say even depressed. CLNS Media Network. For those of you who are new, it's a little fun we like to have to open the pod. The Patriots had a lot of fun Sunday, 38-10. Mike, you were going to have to stop me from unloading all of my success rates and efficiencies and notes and nuggets, and May did this, and Josh McDaniels called that, because we got to get to the goods. But before we do any of that, is there anything you want to hit on or make fun of me for already? Because it's been a heck of a 2 minutes here to start.
No. I'm playing hurt. I think we all are at this point of the year. I can get to my dad pod right now. As I was telling you off the air, my son, before he went back to college, gifted me his cold. So I'm reevaluating our relationship because you don't want to have a cold going into the postseason. It's going to have to play hurt. So that's what I'm doing today. No beer, just water today.
Oh. So me and my friend Stella are all alone here.
I got to stay hydrated.
All right. So I have not talked a whole lot about the MVP on this podcast because I've stated multiple times I just think Drake Maye deserves the MVP award. Not in a way that we all have to do and it's not even close. Like Matthew Stafford's had many more touchdowns than Drake Maye's had, and we can parse him out from how many he's thrown at the 1 yard line, and the fact that he's throwing them to Puka Nacua, and Aaron Schatz, friend of the pod, has broken down how Matthew Stafford performs without Puka Nacua versus Drake Maye without Stephon Diggs. Spoiler, Maye without his number one receiver better than Stafford without his. But the bottom line for me is this. I believe Maye is the MVP because of how much he's driven winning for the Patriots, which factors into, of course, the schedule a little bit, but also the people around him, what he's done with his legs, and the bigger advanced metrics that just go by EPA per play, CPOE, or your just standard yards per attempt and completion percentage over expected. He's done more for the Patriots than Matthew Stafford has done for the Rams. This feels like a 60-40 vote, what should be a 60-40 vote. He's my MVP. What say you?
Yeah, I've been making this case now for multiple weeks and, maybe a little later to come to it than some of the other people on the beat, because I think we are quick to quote unquote defend your guy. He's not my guy. I cover who's ever on the team, but I think there is some of that happens. And I think you're right. Like, to piss on what Stafford's done this year is lunacy. Like, he's had a ridiculous year at 37 years old. But I would say, as you mentioned, all the advanced numbers, and I think there's just that quotient of, and it's been this way for about a decade now, where you pretty much have to win 12, 13, 14 games and be a 1 or a 2 seed. Well, Drake Maye did that with a team that, again, other than Taylor Kyles, no one really thought was going to win 12 or 13 games. And he was wrong. They won 14, Taylor. Get it straight. Matthew Stafford's what, a 6 seed? Like, and I said this before, like, just if you plug Jimmy Garoppolo, who is their backup, and we know my feelings about Jimmy, but if you plug Jimmy in there, they're winning 9 or 10 games. I'm just telling you, that team is good enough to win 9 or 10 games. If you plug Joshua Dobbs, who is Drake Maye's backup, into this offense, how many wins do the Patriots have? So it's just like another little thing you can pull at, to me, that's not the overwhelming argument, but I think Maye means so much more to what the Patriots are and became this year than Stafford does to LA. And again, not even remotely crapping on what he's done. 46 touchdowns. What is it? 47? Something absurd. But Maye has been the most valuable player in every sense of the word this season and has elevated this team and players around him like I think no other.
Well, first, I'd like to congratulate a winner out there of the Pats Interference Bingo, where we have a Jimmy G reference already. We're probably going to have a mention of the Patriots' Week 3 loss to Pittsburgh here in any second. You have my stupid intro. And just me making a face at you for something you say in the first 5 minutes of the pod. So bravo. If you've won the bingo, please email me. We will have a small prize. I will never get to you and wash your hands of it. Look, when we get into the conversations of like, well, if so-and-so was playing over here in place of that guy, and that guy was playing over here, the results would be so different. First of all, that's called a counterfactual and something you can never prove, and you could argue to death. You won't, if you can't. And that's for sports radio, and that's fun. But to me, what that also does is start to credit or discredit players for things that are just outside of their control. You can win MVP on a great team, and frankly, should, because that means you're winning and that team is partially great because of you. But I'm not going to discredit Drake Maye or give him credit, for having a bad offensive line. That wasn't his choice, okay? To be under pressure, one of the 10 highest rates in the league. The fact, though, that he's overcome that context, that can give him a little bit of credit. You understand what I mean? Like, I'm not going to say what Matthew Stafford would do here because I don't know what it is. And I'm not going to give Drake Maye credit for picking a bad offensive line. But understanding what he did within that context and what Matthew Stafford did is key because we don't have to just look at the old box score numbers like most MVP voters have for years and years and years. And you'll notice about 20 years ago, Tom Brady won MVP in an undefeated team. Okay, like it can be done. It's just a matter of between these two guys, who do you prefer? Just like everyone else in New England, I think, which is why probably I've avoided this segment. We all agree it should be Drake Maye.
Yeah, and Brady threw 50 touchdown passes that year. So, like, yeah, they were undefeated, but he had a record-setting season. It's interesting because you could have even made a case going into this past weekend that Christian McCaffrey deserves some consideration, right? Closing in on 1,000 rushing and receiving. I know running backs don't win the award, but like they've been through a whole bunch. Mac Jones, a quarterback, Birdie, back and forth. The bunch of injuries they've had at wide receiver, and he's been the one constant, but he would have needed to close with a great game against Seattle. He still wouldn't have won it, but I'm just saying you could make the argument. Then he did Jack Diddley Poo against Seattle. They lose the game, lose the chance to be the number one seed. I keep coming back to what it's been in the last decade or so, and also how the nerd numbers have started to influence more and more voters. And I can share with you this. I'm not going to reveal who I talked to, but I spoke to 2 of the 50 MVP voters. They texted me and were like, I'm having a hard time with this. One of them was actually having a hard time with the Coach of the Year thing. But then we got into the conversation about the MVP. And I said to one simply, look, Stafford's on the 6th place team. Drake's on a 2nd place team that won 14 games. I do think that matters. I really do. I think the voters have shown that it matters. And then the other one, we're having the conversation about Coach of the Year, and then we start talking about person was in the same place, Maye Stafford. I think that's what everybody is voting, Maye Stafford. And, you have to do 1 through 5. So there will be the potential for someone to get a little loopy and maybe change the order somehow and can influence the voting because it might be that close. But
so you're the master puppeteer here on the MVP race? Is that what we're getting at with this story? That you're,
I would just say 2 out of 50. 2 out of 50, generally not a large number, but when it's 2 out of 50 for the MVP voting, and you may have influenced people in a certain manner, yes, I think send checks my way is what I'm saying. When you speak of me, speak well.
It's too bad our guy Tommy Kern gave up his MVP vote this year, which he handed to Burt Breer. So forward all of your, listening to this, cases, arguments, whatever, to Burt, and let him handle that. I'll say this too about the 3rd place thing, just because this bothers me in that like all 3rd place teams are made equal, and that the Rams giving up 38 points and that insane game on Thursday night in Seattle somehow was his fault when he's also, just off on that deep ball in the last 30 seconds or whatever it was from getting them to 40 points, which apparently was what they needed that night to win a game against the NFL's arguably best defense or the best defense in the NFC. It's just not fair to the Rams. So I think are a better team than the Patriots, but because of what Maye has done, they're in the conversation. And again, that gets me to my full circle point. How much are you responsible for what's going on? How great have you been in a vacuum? If the latter is close, I go to the former. And in this case, it's clear and obvious Drake Maye's driving a lot more of the winning, soft schedule set aside, than Matthew Stafford has for the Rams, because they're good. And look, we all know what the deal is. We just went through a whole regular season. Let's move on.
I was going to say quickly, though, did you read Bill Barnwell's take?
Yes, and this is something that felt almost too obvious to get the traction it did, which is not to discount Bill, who frankly I'd love to have on the pod here soon. Has been on the pod before. But it's just to say that why aren't we doing that all of the time? And all of the screaming and yelling and the Cam Newton acting that we do now about the MVP. Or I guess he's not acknowledging Drake Maye, so he's not probably having an MVP conversation. The point is, yes, of course, we should just look at the strength of schedule as it pertains to pass defense, not what's happening in offense, because that's not affecting Drake Maye and Matthew Stafford. The hang up, though, that I have to bring him up again, Aaron Schatz pulled up numbers that said what Bill Barnwell pulled are not correct. So I don't know where to sit on Matthew Stafford's strength of schedule by pass defense as assessed by EPA and Drake Maye's strength of schedule against opposing pass defenses measured by EPA being close. Aaron Schatz's EPA number says they're wildly different. Bill Barnwell says they're close. And given that, the strength of schedule argument is not relevant. Is that what you were getting at?
Yeah, I just think it was and I actually like your, not that I didn't like all your points. I like the point at the beginning where I think this got traction. One, because of where we're rooted. And of course, the people they want it to be May and think that there's some sort of conspiracy against the Patriots in May, etc. But also because people like Dan Orlovsky, who I don't believe has a vote, but has come out and said, like, it's Stafford. It was Stafford. I don't know if he's changed his mind in the last 24 to 36 hours, but like, and posting these numbers, like more touchdown passes, like, and it's the basic old school box score stats when, as we now know, and not that I am like a full convert to all the nerd numbers, but I do think that they have carried more weight with me and have influenced me a little bit more than they used to. And to just ignore those when in many cases it's a clear win for May seems a little bit like you're just not doing your homework. And I think that's probably why the Barnwell thing, which is, as usual with Bill, very detailed, gives you all this evidence that maybe average Joe fan doesn't know, but like, hey, look at this, look at these numbers, look at those metrics. And I think that's why it sort of got the weight that it got today.
Yeah, it's just to say like what matters. And then when you have that list, rank them what matters most. Because strength of schedule, we can do better and we can be more specific than how good the entire team is versus, okay, what is Drake Maye dealing with? And the example he gave, Cleveland stinks. The Browns are bad. They just fired their head coach. Their defense, though, was very, very good. And it was very good at defending the pass relative to other defenses across the league. How Drake Maye performed against the Browns back in week 8, 9, whatever it was, as I wrote then, the toughest test of his career, is really important. That's a big data point. Not the win over the Browns. Of course, the Patriots should beat the Browns. How did Drake Maye do against that pass defense? Anyway, I don't know how many people listening would disagree with us. So at that point, we have to move on. I asked you to bring, instead of we do the, how did Drake play? Why did they win? What did people miss in offense and defense and studs and duds? Let's just do from the Miami game last night what the people missed. Like the deepest dives, the most interesting nuggets. This could be anything that you have. I don't have anything on Drake here. I think we all understood what Drake Maye did against the Dolphins while his offense ran up 243 rushing yards. I do have stuff on Josh McDaniels and a couple things defensively that led me to a big picture conclusion that I want to hold on to for a second. But the most interesting thing you saw watching the film today was what?
So first thing I did today was go deep on Milton Williams and Will Campbell, because obviously we know the importance of your starting left tackle returning to action after 4 games missed with the MCL. And of course, Milton Williams, who missed 5 games with the high ankle sprain. I was wowed by Will Campbell. I thought that look, one of the things I was concerned with was because this injury sometimes still does require surgery. It's not ACL, but sometimes you might have to mess with it. So is he really 100% or is he close to it? He's such a good athlete. Is that going to impact his feet and his legs and how he moves? Answer to that question was no, it didn't at all. And in fact, he said after the game, man, I don't even know if you use the word rough, but like I got better as the game went on. And I would say he's right. He did get better as the game went on. However, he started at a damn high level on the first play, helping to push the pile of a 3 or 4 yard run from Ramondre that turned into 9. And then like a little extra shove at the end, like, hey, I'm back. And then the second series, Zach Seiler, however he says it, sort of gave up at the end of a play. So he's like tossed him aside. And it just so happened that Rasul Douglas was coming towards him. And the whistle might have blown. And he put Rasul Douglas on his ass. And it was just like, oh, he's not Logan Menkins yet on that regard of playing on that line. but there's definitely some of that in his game. But I thought he moved really well. I thought he impacted both the run game, had a great block on one of Ramondre's touchdown runs, got to the second level, was basically the last guy that had a shot at Ramondre from stopping that from being a big play, picked off that linebacker. I thought he was terrific. Like, that was an A game for me for Will Campbell. And Milton was a B-. I think he talked during the week about how 2 weeks ago he wasn't confident in the leg yet, so they didn't activate him. And then he said after the game it was sore. And I think you could see that a little bit. And we've talked about the injury in particular. This isn't an injury that's getting better by February. If they're playing in another month, he's still dealing with the high ankle sprain. And he pretty much admitted that today, because he talked again today on Monday. So while it wasn't awesome, I started to look at it from the perspective of, well, he still gets some attention. He still was pretty quick. Still had some good explosion at the line of scrimmage. Granted, his tackle for loss was because Cole Strange decided not to block him. So it wasn't so much what Milton did that Cole Strange didn't do. But then you're talking about reducing the snaps of Corey Durden, who's been really good, but you've asked a lot of him. Reducing the snaps or completely eliminating going forward of someone like Eric Gregory. Certainly Jeremiah Farms, who wasn't active and is going to re-sign to the practice squad. But these different things where his level of talent, even at B- play, is better than what you're going to get from the odds and ends that you had to plug in to help fill that role while he was gone.
Well, and if you made a list of the 10 most essential Patriots to a Super Bowl run, okay, and this could have been months ago, but we're doing it here, January 5th, both of those guys are on it. And I think the Patriots survived better without Will Campbell than I expected, than most people expected. It's a credit to Vidarian Lowe. It's a credit to Josh McDaniels, Drake Maye. But if you're going to survive 3 straight playoff games, one of which might be on the road, and then go to the Super Bowl and win, you're going to need your best players, as we hear from Vrabel all the time, to be and play at their best. I'm with you on Campbell, who also on the first drop back, I think it might have been Haas. I don't know. It's somewhere here in my notes. Who was one of those, like, very close to a little bit of a hurry or a hit, but like he found his footing, strained, as we mentioned so often, the way he recovers, core strength, blah, 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 was there. He was fine the rest of the way. Might have given up a quarterback hit on a screen. I really don't mark down pressures on screens because that's the whole point of that for the offense. Though, granted, as you and I were texting, you probably gave up on blocking Bradley Chubb a little too early because Drake Maye still landed on his butt.
Yeah.
So Will Campbell was really good. Milton Williams did flash a little bit, and you'll notice on the Elijah Ponder sack, he's jumping up on a stunt, which first of all, love the recognition, forces Quinn Ewers to cock his arm, pull it back down, and then Ponder gets the sack. I like to see the movement. Only had him down for one pressure. He had 2 tackles, one of which, again, Cole Strange, old pal, cut him loose. That is what it is. What I want to talk about, and we'll get into the details of this in a second, is that as crazy as this sounds, I think that sad sack game Sunday, more the second half, but that second half beatdown, that Sunday beatdown of the Dolphins was a roadmap for them to the Super Bowl. And what I mean by that is, what do we know about the Patriots offense? It is number 1 by EPA per play. It is number 1 by EPA per play because of how successful they are passing the ball, both from an explosive play standpoint and how efficient you are. Running the ball is very come or go, boom or bust. This is not a steady Eddie 4 or 5 yards to carry. We talked about this. When they get their explosives, that's a good run offense. But if they get their explosives, what they got on Sunday were plenty of explosives. 4 rushes that totaled 124 yards, more than half of their yardage. Obviously, 1 or 2 led to a score. And to me, that's how you have to fix your problems. This is going to be whatever we can do scheme-wise, which according to Vrabel is about 30% of explosive plays. 70% is just guys making a play, and we saw this from Stevenson. The run game has to be explosive. It doesn't need to be consistent. It's not going to be consistent just with the personnel they have, but it can hit a couple of booms that can make up for the inefficiencies or run stuffs. Defensively, it's the same thing. You look at that first drive, you get a turnover on downs in the red zone, which had been a red carpet for opponents just to walk down straight into the end zone. Granted, you probably got a little lucky. They threw the ball on 4th and 1 when you're the worst short yardage defense in the league. But setting that aside, you get another turnover inside the red zone with the Jalen Hawkins pick. You have a turnover around midfield with the forced fumble and recovery by Elijah Ponder. That stuff papers over the issues of we're not good enough down to down. which anyone watching the Patriots defense, especially with a banged up Milton Williams, has to admit to themselves that this is not a strength of the team and not among the better defenses in the entire playoff field. But you can survive, even thrive, if you're able to generate those turnovers, which when you listen to Jack Gibbons today is exactly what they've been focusing on the last 4 weeks, which I think is the coaching staff going, look, we can't bet on our talent. We can't bet on our schemes to carry us and to win out over time. What we do need to win, though, are the high leverage moments and to take some risks that are going to pay off. The other high leverage moment, you'll notice third possession, give up that long opening drive, turnover on down. Second drive Miami has goes in for an actual touchdown. 3rd and 1 stop and short yardage. Durden's in there. Milton Williams might have been in there too. Yep. But the point is those short yardage plays and what happens in the red zone are going to swing the performances for this defense in the way that we saw for the worst Belichick defenses, right? It was like, okay, we'll give up yards between the 20s, but in the red zone, we'll lock down. I don't even know if they can lock down, but I know they have to take an approach that says, just like offensively, we're going to chase the ceiling plays, the explosives, and in this case, the turnovers, so that will buy us time and that we're going to be off the field and we'll have done something that helps us avoid getting exposed over time.
It's funny when, there's Jack Gibbons did say this, that you're stressing the turnovers. And yet when you look at some of the most important players on defense, you're in 2 corners in particular, right? In Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis. And you're like,
Zealous.
Yeah, I expected at some point there was going to be a flurry of turnovers. You're going to, hey, I'm going to throw it that way every once in a while. And these guys are good enough to make a play on it. And then you're looking at the course of the season going, is that going to happen at some point? And Hawkins has obviously picked up some of the slack. He's got 4 picks. Gibbons finally forces the first career fumble in his lifetime in the NFL this past game. But that's a fine line to walk when you haven't shown a great propensity to be able to do it. But like you said, maybe it's just one. Maybe it's the one, especially with the way the quarterback has been playing and taking care of the football. Maybe it's just the one that swings a close game in your favor.
Well, are you with me too that like on balance, and this is a really clustered field, they're all in the same tier, yada, yada. But, if you played a clean 60-minute game versus Houston and they played a clean 60-minute game right now, who are you taking?
Patriots.
Oh, okay. Well, defensively, though, how many points do they give up?
You're talking about the Texans defense versus Patriots offense?
No. Patriots defense versus the Texans. Like, if they play a clean game, but like just a regular game, you know what I mean? Like, set the turnover stuff aside. We're going to play
21-24.
Yeah. Like, there's just not a ceiling there for them like you would a Houston and even as of late a Jacksonville to say, maybe even the Chargers, because these are all better defenses by DVOA by leaps and bounds, to say that, like, we can do this on our own without taking some chances. Now, is that come schematically where the Patriots actually had a higher blitz rate against Miami, given there's no risk when you're blitzing Quinn Ewers without Jalen Waddle and Devon Achane? I get it. Mm-hmm. But is that something they're more willing to do? Because the one thing they've been excellent at all year, as the pass rush wanes and the run defense falls apart, and then it comes back a little bit. Are they good? Are they good enough? We don't know. They're excellent at denying the explosive plays. And if you were going to chase the turnovers and do, as I suggest, those boom or bust plays to help paper over your issues in the red zone and with run defense, you're going to risk giving up some explosives. And that, to me, is kind of the tug and pull of how they want to run and play their defense, because you, of course, trust Drake Maye to score a bunch of points. But ideally, you want to stay balanced. And if you fall behind, you're not going to be able to do that. The one other wrinkle I had with the run game, care to guess what it might have been? Because the wrinkle wasn't even specific to this Sunday. The reason I bring this up is because it pertains to how I think they're going to play in the playoffs. And we saw this versus the Jets, and we saw this versus Baltimore for about 25% of their snaps.
Jumbo.
6 offensive linemen. Thayer Munford. If you were not familiar with our guy Thayer, we're 74. Sometimes he's playing fullback. Sometimes he's tight end. Sometimes he's in motion. Sometimes he's stationary. Sometimes he's blowing a block like he did, I think, in the first or second play. Yeah. The whole damn game. The Patriots are playing with 6 offensive linemen now on a quarter of their snaps. This is not a game plan decision against the Dolphins, the Jets, or the Ravens. This is a trend now. And what it's yielding, or at least yielded on Sunday, is an 81% success rate. I get that they're JV Dolphins. You don't have to tell me they're the JV Dolphins. I'm aware. I understand that the J in Jets is for JV, okay? They stink. But if you're the Patriots, as we just discussed, with this run game that is inefficient, meaning you just can't bank on 4 or 5 yards a pop, you need to go big or go home. What they're doing to solve that, and Josh McDaniel specifically, is saying, F it, we'll just play with a 6 offensive lineman. And you don't know where he's going to be. And it's not working in a way that's beating them over the head, but you'll notice Ramondre Stevenson's 56-yard run on that first drive from 22 personnel. His 35-yard touchdown, another 22 personnel. You had the 5-yard touchdown. I mean, that was from 11. But the 2-yard touchdown at the end with Trayvon Henderson. Jumbo, 20-yard run from jumbo personnel. This, to me, is going to be a really interesting dynamic against LA, which is one of the few remaining defenses that says, we're not playing base. We are going to stay nickel and dime, and we're going to hang out with our DBs. This is how they want to play, I think, to boost their run game. And there's some play action stuff off of it that has been effective. 29 yards to Hunter Henry was from a package of 6 offensive linemen. Mm-hmm. This is not something I saw coming, but it's here.
And we harped on this in the pod pretty much since week 1. Tight end blocking, not a strength of this football team. They've had their moments. They've had some decent games. They've had games where maybe, I don't know, somebody in the building said, well, you guys aren't giving our guys enough credit. That's happened. But by and large, the consistency that they've gotten out of their tight ends in the blocking game is not where you want to, let's just run behind these guys. Adding Mumford into this mix, or as they did earlier with Brown or whoever they've, the variety of guys, and it's clear that they've apparently settled on Mumford here going forward, is that this is what this guy gets paid to do. Like, you guys are more move tight end types. You can put your hands in the dirt, but you're better receivers than you are blockers. This guy has one job: block. And he's not always great at it, as you mentioned, but it's been an improvement from what they've gotten. By the way, I mean to ask him when I see him in the locker room next, I think he really likes going in motion. There's something about him going in motion. He gets a little hop in his step at 300 and whatever he is, 25 pounds. You can just kind of feel like, hey, I like this. Maybe one day they'll fling me the ball, or maybe not.
He does like his motion. Really good at fullback, by the way. Like I mentioned, the blown block. It's not fair to end there. Like he had a good game in his role, which is now expanding. The other sign that they're invested in this, because when they invest in diversifying on Sunday, that means they're investing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in practice and in meetings to go, what else can we do? Yep. And there's stuff they haven't shown us yet. Will it come up this Sunday against the Chargers? I do think so. Will it be 25% of their snaps, which again is where it's been at the last 3 games and shows you this is a pivot that they want to make against a variety of different opponents? We'll see. But I think that's a good point that you raised, because I remember watching the Baltimore game and they had finally started to dip their usage of that 12 personnel, which they're very happy with Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper, and they're professionals and they're good two-way tight ends. It wasn't enough to keep them on the field as often as they were. They pivoted away. And then when they use it sparingly now, again, I get they're the Dolphins, and the Patriots can't take the Dolphins to the playoffs. I get it. But this strategy stuff, I think, is going to stay. Would they use it sparingly? 70% success rate. And I really, really like that, including a couple of jumbo snaps. So that's just something that I'm watching for, because it wasn't like this was a big surprise, but the efficacy of it, and now the developing trend says to me, this isn't going anywhere. And against the defense in the Chargers, like this to me is, I think, part of the optimal way that they have to play if they want to win Sunday and beyond.
I would agree 100%. And it's one of the things that I highlighted what we were going to talk about going forward about.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So look, we all understand the year that Drake's had, and we were just here a few weeks ago after I think the Bills lost. You want the ball in his hands, and we were arguing, should they have run it a little bit more, and they didn't have a ton of snaps in the second half. And I was like, look, the one thing that we sort of determined here as the year's gone on is this guy is the guy that you want the ball in his hands more often than not. And I was okay with how it all went down. But what you've seen over the last 3 weeks is developing a little bit more. I'm going to say balance, even though it's not necessarily fair, because as you mentioned, it's still more of a boom or bust type run offense. But it makes his life so much easier when they are committed to it. And not that it hasn't been, he's made it look easy at various points, but there's just something about the feel of it and the calmness when they're running the ball, and the defense starts to creep up a little bit. And that's when you get some of your over the top stuff that happens here. Obviously play action, which doesn't have to correlate with good runs, but just running those plays, as the guys have told us a number of times this year, like, you just don't understand. Sometimes it's only a 1 yard game, but if we don't show that, then we can't run the play action off of it. And that struck for 35. So I like them leaning into this and continuing to stay consistent with this. In fact, if I had one beef about anything that happened from a play calling standpoint in the game on Sunday, was the third series when they had run the ball down their throats, averaging 10.8 yards a rush in the first two series, of which they scored 2 touchdowns on, and turn around and go pass. And I understand you pass first. Now you're behind the chains because it's incomplete. Now it's 2nd and 10, and you're sort of chasing that. But it was like, just keep handing it off, keep that thing going. And they sort of got back to that. And, we saw what they did, especially in the second half when they just steamrolled them.
And this should go without saying, but when we talk about playing more jumbo and some more play action there needs to be a Kyrus Tonga touchdown pass on the play sheet.
Well, and this is what we were talking about. Like, they've expanded the role with Thayer in there. Like, this could have been some of Tonga too. And like, before the injury happened, before the first injury to the chest, and that was Cincinnati, right? I think it was. We were getting there. Yeah. Like, I think that was being saved for Baltimore and Buffalo. And then he gets hurt. And then it was like, well, when he came back, we don't want to, he's too important for defensively to put him on offense. And, now he's hurt again with the foot and has missed a few games here. So, yeah, I haven't lost sight of that, hey, all hands on deck in the playoffs. And yeah, you might be playing on a bum foot, but you did some good things there and could be time.
Couple more things the way I think they need to play offense if they're going to make the Super Bowl, because that's what we're talking about now, right? Like, there's no more prep. We're going to get into the Chargers later in the week, not you and I, but I will on my pod and you on yours. And these are kind of broad stroke. If they make it there, what will have happened? Number one is this jumbo stuff is going to work. This is a part of the offense. They're going to run the ball. The two are inseparable now. Like, they're getting an 11 personnel and they're still trying to run. And you'll notice that was one of the few times, maybe the only time, they went backward and lost a yard. Like, that's just what happened.
Yep.
What else you need to do is start to feed Stephon Diggs in early downs, because Miami, like Buffalo before them, wisely double teamed him. Pop Douglas also, by the way, got doubled on that same play, and I had to rewind it 3 times. Yeah. It was the end of that third series. I'm like, good for Pop. Only seems to happen against Miami, which I think was the first time any receiver got doubled was last year or 2 years ago in Miami. Anyway, setting that aside, if your best players are going to be at their best, they need to have their best opportunities, and this falls on Josh and Thomas Brown and Todd Downing. The play action stuff used to go to Matt Collins because he was big and he could handle over the middle. I don't want to see bubble screens. I don't want to see just slant flat. I want to see stuff that gets Stephon Diggs targets versus basic coverage and basic looks before defenses can get into their bag and say, this is how we're going to take him out with a side-to-side bracket, one over the top, shade of safety, whatever it might be, because that is one that's going to be most vulnerable. Diggs will have his chances to exploit a defense that will be then most vulnerable. I also like May in empty, because when you look at that touchdown with Ramondre Stevenson, the same concept they tried to hit in Baltimore didn't. It's just double move down the sideline against the linebacker. There's something about clarifying your matchups, smoking out the coverage mismatches, where it's just there in plain sight for him to see. It's not that he needs to see that to read defenses. It's just to say that they're not an offense that, though while elite this year, overwhelms you with skill position talent. It's just that there's always one mismatch that you can kind of pick at. In that instance, it was Ramondre Stevenson on a linebacker. But when you have that full menu out in front of you, there's no need to turn the page. You just go left, you go middle, you go right. Who do I want here? That stuff, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but there's just kind of a feel to that I think empowers Drake. And when that hits and succeeds, defensively, you just have to kind of show your hand because it's empty. You are being stretched sideline to sideline that I kind of like for them, which would balance out the jumbo stuff and finding Diggs and kind of more traditional means in early downs.
I also think that it feeds into his athleticism and
yes,
taking off and running. Because as you said, you're declaring we've spread you out, and there have been a number of times here over the most recent 3-4 weeks where teams are in man, where they're turning their back on him, and he's quick to identify it and to take off. And that's an easy 6, 8, 10, 12-yard gain just like that. And we know he's capable in a couple of instances, maybe taking it further. And maybe that's that inner war that he's had in his own head, that they've had with him. Maybe you unleash that a little bit more the deeper you get into this run, because as we said, it's a one and done situation. So if you think you can get 30, maybe go for 30.
Yeah. One other one that I had, and this pertains to how to fix another issue that they have, which is short yardage. They need to get cute in short yardage, but Josh McDaniels cannot get cute in opening script or first and second quarter stuff against defenses that right now are going to be well prepared for that. I mean, you throw a flea flicker against a bad Dolphins defense. Like, I'm glad for them it hit for 35 yards. That was not a bad thing in a vacuum. But to me, the success of that play is not indicative of success in the future, right? That history is not indicative of future performance, because your future performance is going to be against much better, smarter defenses that just don't have their eyes in the backfield because you made a run fake. Jack Jones is not suiting up on any of the Sundays that you're going to see, unfortunately for you. Okay. So that stuff is a balance, right? Because you also go, well, if Houston's playing basic defense and you're running basic plays, like, what chance do you have? They have as much talent as you, if not a little bit more. You need some misdirection. That's true. But the stuff that will, again, kind of get in their way is the stuff that we hear and think about when Mike Vrabel goes, yeah, we can't be too cute with double passes and this and that. And that, again, sometimes it becomes that Ravens game in 2014. And other times it's 4 years earlier. Granted, Josh wasn't the OC then, against the Jets with the double pass screen, or whatever it might have been, play action screen. I don't know. When they lose the divisional round in that upset, can't wait, Bart Scott. And you're like, well, what the hell are you doing? You're 14-2. You mowed this team down 45-3 on Monday night a month earlier.
Yeah.
How about that for a poll? Can we sit with that?
That was a good one. I'm actually, as I'm trying to think of what I was going to say next, I'm like recalling that play in my head, and then sort of getting mad at just the whole approach in that game, which maybe that's an off-season. Maybe that's an off-season pod right there. I did like the way Will was moving and blocking, and the 3rd and 1 to Stevenson that went for 20 yards. They ran behind him, and most of their short yardage stuff has a tendency to be on the right side, which makes sense because of the way that Nwenu and Moses have played for a better part of the year. And by the way, just as a quick aside, Mike Nwenu, since about the Tampa game, is making a very strong case of, I thought that he was in trouble for next year just because the number is large. I think it's $25 million as a cap hit. The way he's played the second half of the season, if this continues in the postseason, at 28 years old, isn't that one of those guys? I know this is an off-season conversation, but it's sort of like he's just playing really well. I mean,
I talked about him as a sneaky, like, this wasn't even dark horse. This is a pony, and like we'll just leave it there. A Pro Bowl case. Like, does Mike Nwenu deserve a 5-second quick survey of how he was getting the look for the Pro Bowl? And this was with Dan Pizzuto. It was like, I had not even thought of that. I go, I don't blame you. But at that point, which was a couple of weeks ago, I'm with you. We turned it around, and some of their best runs, like, he is just sealing dudes off. And you've got the Merrill Hodge stolen from Vince Lombardi. You got a seal here and a seal here in an alley. And very often one of those steals was Mike Nwenu.
Yeah, I think so. I'm just, again, it hasn't been a consistent thing, but I might just have some more confidence and just kind of keep. We're gonna back it up right behind you. Let's see what happens.
Yeah,
because at some point you are just going to need to be the tougher team. You're going to have to win some of those critical 3rd and short, 4th and short situations just by running the ball right down their throat.
Defensively, how do they need to play?
So I'm going to show a little bit of bias here. I've really liked, and I call it the 3 linebacker. I know we could talk about the edges, and these guys can be linebackers, but the Tavai, Ellis, Gibbons, and you'll substitute Spillane when he comes back in, probably for Jack mostly. I think they've been playing really well. And it was one of the things that really struck me about this game was the improvement of Christian Ellis, again, sort of in the second half of the season. And we have talked about the contract and what did they see? He's thinking less because he understands more, and he's playing faster, and he's playing violent. And like, he's not the biggest dude, but he's good for a couple of weeks now, pretty much since the Giants game. He's lighting dudes up. He's lighting them up early. He's lighting them up at various points during the game. And I just think that whole group is playing with confidence such that when they first rolled it out against the Bills, that was the first time we'd sort of seen that, was when Tavai returned. It was effective in that game, but I wasn't like, I don't love this group together. And as the season's gone on and they've sort of just evolved as a group and gotten more confident as a group, I think they're playing really well. So when those guys come out there, for me, there's an increased level of confidence in that. But I think big picture wise, Andrew, they still don't get enough of a pass rush. There's still a 4-man rush is just, there's nothing happening there, and maybe Harold Landry can come back from 2 weeks off and be the Harold Landry he was before the injury happened back in week 5, week 6 against New Orleans? Probably not. Caleb Vaughn, as we know, we've talked about, sort of has slowed here. And so I have a feeling they're just going to have to be super creative when they need to get pressure on the quarterbacks. And we know there's that give and take. You're going to blitz, you expose yourself in certain areas, and are the Justin Herberts of the world going to be able to take advantage of you?
So that's where I landed first. If you were mapping out the Patriots' path to the Super Bowl, defensively, this is a weakness. Teams are going to look at them as the Chargers, who have one of the worst pass blocking offensive lines. You're like, oh, thank God.
Yes.
Thank God.
Dead last in pass block win rate.
Well, look at you, nerd.
Yeah.
Said affectionately because I have more of those numbers than you typically do.
The people are like 40 minutes in. You didn't give me any of those numbers.
Oh, I have 81% success rate when they were in jumbo yesterday.
That was one.
The blitz I go back and forth on because I think, number one, it plays into your strengths, as we've talked about. Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis outside. You just trust them one-on-one. And you need that pass rush, as you're saying. Like Caleb Chase on Christian Barmore, Milton Williams, and Harold Landry at full health. Sounds like a great front four. They rotate guys as they should. They're not healthy. They're not going to be full gas in the tank come the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. What can you do to offset that? Well, send more numbers. And the trouble is there are just some games that I've watched and charted, and I get to the end, and their offensive success rate, so their opponent success rate, whenever the Patriots blitz, is like north of 80, which is to say, okay, when they're blitzing, it not only is it just not getting home, they're getting gouged. Yep. And that is the fine line here of like, you don't want to give Justin Herbert all day. What makes the elite quarterbacks, yeah, sometimes they're better under pressure than others, but the more stable piece is how you perform in a clean pocket. The best of the best are the best of the best in a clean pocket. They will kill you. You can't have that happen. So what do you do to offset that? I do think, though, you just have to take some more chances than you've been used to because, again, between the 20s, you're going to give up yards. And except for yesterday against, again, Quinn Ewers, you have been so bad in the red zone that you just can't count on getting there and boxing an offense is and saying, all right, you're going to kick a field goal. You need to create negative plays. You need to create turnovers. And I think they do have to turn up the dial here. Maybe there's an early feeling out period to buy yourself some time. And this is a first half thing. And then a second half game plan is to kind of show, then back out some creeper stuff, some pressures, whatever. But if they get knocked out and they're just rushing forward, not getting home, and then you blitz when everyone expects you to blitz, it's just not going to sit well with me.
Yeah, so I think, and we saw in the second half of the Jets game, for instance, like a lot of blitzing, a lot of disguising behind it. Was that just sort of like, hey, we got to work on this, and we know this game is we've got this they knew they had it in the bag, but like we've got to continue this communication, and we've got to continue to work on these things and see if we see some stuff that we like or stuff that we don't like that could pay dividends. The Ewers thing, and obviously the first couple drives he looked very smooth and very confident. So freaking casual in the pocket. Like there were a couple times it's like, dude, the whole world is crashing in around you. You can't stay there anymore. And he was like, dun, 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 dun. It's like, no, your clock is broken, dude. Get out. You're not going to, obviously you're not seeing that level of quarterback this weekend against Herbert. And if you look at the rest of them, we can pick flaws at different guys, but they're all higher level players than what they faced in recent weeks.
You know what else I need is more Christian Gonzalez as a shadow. And yes, I asked Mike Vrabel about this last week.
Put it down. Yep.
Because there are more challenges involved than there used to be when receivers would stick to a side or they wouldn't motion as often or the motions were just limited to a crossover formation and back. Or now you've got guys going all over the place. And when they're in the fit and it's in early downs and you have the threat of the run, no one wants Christian Gonzalez in the slot, though he's been better and more physical. Mm-hmm. But the point is, it's more challenging now just to say, cover that guy and just set it and forget it. The thing is, though, again, we talk about Diggs being put in a position to be at his best, have the best opportunity to impact the game. Christian Gonzalez, to go back to the Houston example, shadowing Nico Collins is the best chance for him to have the biggest impact in that game. Yep. Christian Gonzalez shadowing, maybe it's old pal Jacoby Myers, if they were to run into the Jaguars in the divisional round, and we'll get to that in a second, gives him the best chance to have the biggest impact in that game. I understand there are complications, but there are ways to do this even when you don't tip off that you're in man, because as they so often, as everyone is now spitting into Tampa 2, and this non-traditional version, and you got safeties who are dropping down into the flat. You got, some third safety spinning into one half and a corner in the other half. If everyone knows the concept of the play, you can rearrange the assignments because you know what the picture looks like. You just have to find out what your puzzle piece is. And the Patriots used to do this with Belichick all the time. When Gilmore would shadow and he would go across the formation and the offense goes, oh, it's man coverage. And then he's running the pull down the middle of cover 2.
Yep.
There's stuff they can do like that with Christian Gonzalez because honestly, Christian Gonzalez did it last year. And I don't know what the proper percentage is of coverage snaps. Is it just third down? Is it just in the red zone? Is it both of those? The point is I need to leverage more of my strengths as a defense that frankly doesn't have many in these big games. Otherwise, I'm doing the opponent a service, and it's the last thing that you can do because, again, you're kind of starting these games going uphill just based on talent and your injury situation.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Like I said, I wrote this down. I would like to see more of it. And even I was thinking this weekend, like, this is a quarterback that's sort of like your quarterback. He will throw to the quote unquote the open guy. And 1 week it's Gadsden, the next week it's McConkey, it's Johnston. But Keenan Allen's been his favorite target on third down. So like if you want to do the we're not comfortable with that. Okay, fine. Third down. Christian, find Keenan. And if with Marcus Jones on the field, that's a good matchup from a size, strength, skill set standpoint that McConkey has. And then you've got Davis on Johnson. Like that's a good mix for me. But I think what they've shown us is that that's probably more what it's going to be like than what we kind of want, which is more of that thing, because that thing I think that's when he's played his best football for them this year.
Yeah. I don't have much else defensively, and it's not because I'm so down on this, because there are numbers that will tell you the Patriots defense is still top 10, top 12 by EPA. And this is where you know that people like me who cite those numbers all the time do not abide by them blindly, because I think anyone watching this defense knows they're not top 10, top 12. And it's partly because you just don't have that many levers to pull. So, yeah, they could blitz a little bit more. They could have Christian Gonzalez shadow number one receivers. You talked about playing bigger because the linebackers are playing well. I still just feel a little hesitant about giving up that much potential space, even though they've been good against play action on early downs for teams that want to throw on them when they're in base. Because also I just don't think the trade-off of taking Marcus Jones off the field for Jelani Tavai is one that I want to make over time. But you could talk me into that given how bad the run defense has been and be like, what choice do you have? If you give up the line of scrimmage on first down, you're giving up the game, especially to a team like the Chargers. So
that's where.
Thursday, but where do you have anything else here?
No. That honestly, those are the things and maybe I'm leaning in this 3 linebacker thing because I think what I'd want to do this weekend playing the Chargers is as good as Herbert is, I want to make them one-dimensional, and I want that dimension to be pass because I feel like my guys covering are better than your receivers. And that's not to say that their receivers are bad, but like Keenan Allen's 34 or whatever. Like this isn't Keenan Allen from 7 years ago. Like they manufacture stuff for him. He's still savvy, but he don't run away from anybody. It's arts and crafts, basically. He figures out the spots. And so to me, this is similar to that Bills game when the Bills were heavy, and we're going to run the ball down your throats. And they're like, no, you're not doing that. We're coming out with a bigger front. We're coming out with these 3 linebackers. You haven't seen this from us all year. And they took the Bills out of that. Now, that part of that was Joe Brady not having counterpunch at that point in the year. But like, I can see that being, we know what you want to do to us, Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman. And we're going to come out here, be big, be physical, and we're going to make you get away from that as much as you can get the Chargers to get away from that, because as we know, Harbaugh, Roman, very stubborn in how they run their offense.
Yeah. They've opened it up a little bit more, which makes it more problematic. And Herbert's running more, which makes him less robotic and more of a problem. But your point's well taken. Okay. Big picture before we name the opponents, you would rather the Patriots see in the divisional round and then the AFC Championship game. Who needs to show up? Like, we just listed a bunch of players, and Gonzalez is a star. Drake has to play well. Milton Williams, ideally, you get something. Will Campbell's in that top 10 list of guys you need to play well to make the Super Bowl. Who's further down the list that does not qualify as a star on this team?
I would put both Ramondre Stevenson and Trevion Henderson in this mix, and for what we were talking about, even if it isn't from a down-to-down basis as successful as you'd like it to be, now that Ramondre's all of a sudden a big playback too, it's like we know that that's what Trevion has in his game. And I do wonder, and I'm not sure how you feel about this, but so I looked at the last 4 games for my writings in Boston Sports Journal tomorrow, and Trevion has 51 carries in the last 4 games. Ramondre has 29. Do you believe that this is what they've decided on, and that it is not quite 2-1, but more tilting in the favor of Henderson because, well, he does add a dash of physicality, but also he can take any one of these plays and turn it into a 65-yard touchdown run because nobody's catching him if you give him a seam? Or is this, we like the way Ramondre is running right now, and he's coming off the toe, so let's keep this thing settled. And then, again, you get into these situations where maybe this is the week he gets 18 carries and Trevion gets 6 or something to that effect.
Well, there was something interesting Mike Vrabel said about Ramondre yesterday in his post-game press conference, and he said, volunteer this. The most important thing that he does is blitz pickup.
Yep.
Like, he just scored 3 touchdowns.
I know.
He had over 150 yards, and he's right. Not just because Ramondre is good in blitz pickup. It's because Trevion Henderson is not. So the scarcity of this skill in that position room is such that you need this one guy to do this one thing that is vital, particularly on 3rd down and 3rd long. And you even saw this on 1st down when Ramondre, I think it's middle of 3rd quarter, aborts, maybe late 3rd quarter, early 4th, aborts a play action fake because here comes a free runner, takes him out at the knees. Drake drops back, holds the safety in the middle, looks right, and hits Hunter Henry for 16 yards. The starting point of that play is a guy who realized, I can't do my job as dictated in the playbook. Otherwise, this whole play gets blown up. I'm not saying Trevion Henderson wouldn't do that. I'm just saying the fact that Ramondre Stevenson does so consistently makes him so valuable. And so by extension, when you know, hey, he's going to play all our 3rd downs, he's going to be in 2 minutes. When can you get a breather? 1st, 2nd down, when we're going to run the ball. I think that's where that ratio comes from. Obviously, you like Henderson touching the ball anyway because he's just an explosive play waiting to happen. And how many times have we heard about X plays and X plays and X plays? But I think it's more than just Henderson's more talented. We like him. It's like, well, we can only ask Ramondre to do this. And so those are going to be his snaps.
That's fair. I was just wondering if, as I was looking at him, I'm just like, he's running so well. He's running so confidently. He's consistently making the first guy miss. It would just scream of, give him the ball just a little bit more. Maybe he should get, because as I've said with Trevion, and there's been sort of a roller coaster with his vision, but like he just doesn't always see it well. And he just sometimes still runs into contact when it shouldn't be there. And you know who's not doing that? 38's not doing that right now.
Yeah, he had one. I think it was inside zone. They were in a lot of inside zone yesterday, and he just bounces left, and it's like, hello.
Yeah.
2-yard gain. Mike Onwenu's on my list. Harold Landry's on my list. And it's because, again, playoff football is one of the trenches. Like, okay, imagine if those guys don't show up. That's interior pressure against Drake Maye. Those are 3rd and 1 runs where instead of going left in this cool little motion that gets stuffed against Miami, you can't get on QB sneaks or handoffs to Ramondre or Trevion or whomever it might be. Harold Landry doesn't get pressure. So you're going to get to pinch against Milton Williams and Christian Barmore, who Barmore showed up a little bit more as a pass rusher, but not in a way that still makes me go, if I'm an offense, I'm terrified of number 90. And then I'll give you just the obvious one too. Andy Borregales. Like, first of all, shout out for the longest field goal in Gillette Stadium history. Somehow I didn't know that when I left Gillette yesterday, late at night. But, man, if these games are going to come down, like we all say, the 4th quarter, the last drive, your kicker's got to have some stones, and he's delivered here so far. But he's going to have to do it again. So those are my 3 guys that, like, you could get into the receivers. I just don't know. Will it be Kayshon Boutte one night? Will it be Matt Douglas another? Like, Matt Collins might have made the list, but he's off the table until, I think, at least the AFC Championship game. I'm not sure. But those 2 stuck out to me. You have to win or compete, keep it level in the trenches to give Drake Maye a shot.
I have a deep cut for you.
Oh, yeah.
Craig Woodson.
Okay. Make the case.
Craig Woodson has been a guy who gets picked on and has a tendency, especially in the red zone, of being the guy caught. And I'm pretty sure that was him on the touchdown.
What was it, by the way? Because they started with trips left with the fullback. The Patriots had 2 defenders over there. They could have aborted that play and just flipped it to, forgive me, is it Al Gingold still, the fullback, and just said, take this in,
Yes.
or somersault in, do a cartwheel in, because there's not a third defender to account for you.
But hideous eyes, like they were
both
like
of them. Yeah,
both of them. Gonzalez and Woodson were like, "What are you looking at? This guy's crossing your face, and you like don't even see him." I don't know how that's like. These guys have elite vision. I don't know. I don't know how you don't see that guy cross your face. But so to me, Woodson's been someone that other teams have manipulated and targeted at various points, and it's not a. It feels like it's an every other week thing. But he hasn't made a lot of plays on the ball. I think we talked about the Tampa game. He had a couple, and you're like, maybe it's turning. And then no, he's there generally. He's just not making a play. If you could just get to be, let's call him an average pass defender in the playoffs, that would be an upgrade, I think, from what he's been consistently. And I think that would make a difference.
It's tough. Comes on pass interference for the first time. He did our 2-minute drill last week, and then he misses 3 tackles and he gives up a touchdown to the Dolphins. Maybe we take a break from the 4-minute drill. I haven't decided this week. And Stacey James actually texted me during this podcast, so we'll see. If we had a poll, we would put it to a poll. A couple players, by the way, have declined. Guys who have been on before, which is fine. It's their prerogative. And now with the bad juju that we put on them with Craig Woodson is a prime example. I get it, but anyway, we'll see. Okay. It's time for you to pick who you would like the Patriots to see in the divisional round. And then the AFC Championship game, as we complete this, what is the Patriots' best pass to the Super Bowl? Where we say offensively, continue to run through Jumbo. Feed Stephon Diggs on early downs. Get Drake Maye in empty. Defensively, turn up the pressure. Not all the way, but a little bit. Get Christian Gonzalez on opposing number ones. You talk about playing a little bit more in base. Fine. I'll throw this one out too, just because it really stuck out. You mentioned the Giants game that Christian Ellis hit. Excuse me. What did we hear about Mike Vrabel identity and defenses when he got hired? They're going to hit. They're going to be ferocious.
Violence.
It's not that they're not doing that, but there's something to be said for turning that up at home in the playoffs. Not recklessly, but I think it's hard to quantify the edge that could be. But we all saw and felt what happened when Christian Ellis laid that hit in Jackson Dart. Like the energy of that game changed. You can do that to a lesser degree in the playoffs. Even if that's just a couple of degrees, those matter because everything does. So I kind of like to just up the violence. But first, before we get your pick of Jacksonville, Houston, the Steelers, maybe. Can't be the Bills because they're too low down there for the divisional round. I got to tell you about PrizePicks. PrizePicks has been with us basically on 2 years, 3 years going on now. How long have I been playing PrizePicks? As long as they've been sponsoring this podcast. And it's not just because they sponsor this podcast. It's because when I pull up the PrizePicks app, I go in watching a Celtics game. I go in watching another game. And I'm out within a minute because all I have to do is build a lineup of 2 to 6 players. Each comes with a stat. I don't have to pick a stat I don't want. Sometimes I can change the number on the stat. I put down $5. I fill up my lineup more or less with each of these players and stats. It could be points, rebounds, passing yards, touchdowns. We give you PrizePicks picks, by the way, every single week on the show. Went over 2 last week, but we were on a heater before. It all balances out. The point is, if you like to win money while you watch sports, download PrizePicks. And here's the coolest part. This new feature of early payouts, let's say you build a lineup of 3 players and you go more passing yards here, fewer than touchdowns there. Whatever you do for the third guy. Maybe it's more than 30 points in an NBA game. I don't care. If your first 2 hit, you can cash out with early payouts. So use that hot start, take your money back, build a community on PrizePicks, whatever you want to do, but it only starts if you download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right.
I may have a couple of basketball ones going as we're doing this right now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah,
it really does spice up the Tuesday night NBA game. But you like my NBA. I just don't get as much time now in season to watch it. But what I do,
you got this whole baby thing. The baby,
yeah, whatever.
Baby.
We might talk about it later.
The baby, talking to the baby.
Okay, I'm gonna go first.
Go ahead.
Divisional round. If I'm the Patriots, and again, you're playing the highest remaining seed left.
Yep.
So if Jacksonville, the number 3 seed, beats Buffalo, the number 6 seed, the highest seed below you, they win. You play Jacksonville. They're coming to Gillette if you win and beat the Chargers. If the Bills win, you can't see them until the AFC Championship game. If the Bills win, you're going to get the winner of Steelers-Texans. And what I want is the winner of Steelers-Texans. And then I want that winner to be the Steelers. A, because you'd have a day head start on them. B, because relative to the rest of the playoff field, I think they stink. And that game, while awesome, a lot of fun to even listen to on the radio as I was driving home from Gillette, does not scare me in the least that this team got in because some poor rookie kicker missed at the end of a game to a very average Ravens team. If I can't get the Steelers, I do want Jacksonville. And then after that, Houston, who again has kind of scared me off of my take of, oh, would you rather stop Josh Allen on a game-winning drive or ask Drake Maye to go down and beat the Texans? Rather ask Drake Maye to do it. I don't know anymore. But I don't have to decide.
Yeah.
For a while. So I'm going to lead off with the Steelers and then Jacksonville.
So I mapped this out in my head as this is how I want it to go for the ease, as we talked about. Texans, I think, are beating the Steelers. So it's not about ease. I just think they're going to win. However, as much as I think the Jaguars are the second most balanced team, I should say, second most balanced team in the AFC, I could see the Bills going in there and winning. And that, I think, would be a better path for the Patriots than, as you mentioned, you get the Texans, you get them here. I would have to dive into it a little bit more. Texans the last 2 weeks, not playing great defense. And this is the thing we talked about 2 weeks ago, where what's the best remaining unit of any team in the AFC? And I would have said the Texans defense. Now, I don't know if that's because they rested guys. I know Lassiter didn't play, and his replacement is dog crap. And I know he was dog crap because LA targeted him as soon as Lassiter went out, and they ate him up. And then I know this past game, he was responsible for a couple big plays as well, including Alex Pierce, who could be a Patriot next year, running by him for a 60-yard touchdown. So I'm starting to get a little shaky because there's something about CJ, and I thought he was playing better from the concussion, where I just think he's good for a couple bonehead plays. And I think the Patriots have generally taken advantage of those guys this season, guys that will make the boneheaded play. And maybe it doesn't come until the red zone, but maybe that's where it happens. So I have that. I have the Bills going to Denver and beating Denver. And I've got to tell you this. I think Denver's getting popped no matter who they play. I do. I don't think they're getting the AFC Championship game. I think they're fraudulent because I think their offense is garbage. In fact, if you ask me, them or the Texans, I'm taking the Texans offense over them.
Wait, so why wouldn't you want Denver then to win?
Well, you could have that. I just don't think that's going to happen. So I'm trying to play this out like this is what you want, but also what I think is going to happen. And so I think it's Patriots, Bills, AFC Championship game in Foxborough. And for as incredible the stories that's going to be, Josh Allen's going to get the monkey off his back. You're a better team than they are. Their defense isn't very good. You beat them once. Yeah, they turned it over 3 times there. Maybe they didn't think you were coming. You were up 24-7, 21-0, whichever number you want to pick, and you just sort of collapsed. I don't think you're going to collapse again. To me, that would be – I think you look at them and go, we beat them once. We should have beat them a second time. In fact, we should have run them out of the building a second time. We're gonna step on their throat. We're going to finish this thing off.
All right. Yeah. I can't get too far ahead of myself because I just think locally people are underestimating the Chargers, which is not to say Justin Herbert's playoff record has been sparkling or that you have misgivings about their offensive line or their lack of a number one receiver, this and that. Jim Harbaugh teams are a high floor team. Vrabel gave ways to this today. There's an element of if you screw up, they're probably going to beat you. So we'll see. But yes, if the football gods are good, if we have been good and the football gods would like to reward us, Pat's Bills in Foxborough is absolutely the best AFC Championship game. My thing would be, I would still rather, if I'm the Patriots or a Patriots fan, it's probably a better way to put this, to go on the road to Denver to see the fraudulent team, even if it's in a place that in this time of year has been a house of horrors. The thing is, those horrors, those demons are old, they're gray, they can't hurt you anymore. They're in the corner. So that's what I would like to see. Jacksonville, too, probably gets a little underrated, but they had such a soft schedule, second half of their schedule, and they wax the Chargers or whatever. I'm still not like totally sold in Trevor Lawrence, but
that's for me. That's what it comes down to with them. Like, I think they're a really well-balanced team. I think Liam Cohen's done an awesome job and made his case to be coach of the year. But Trevor Lawrence here in January, I'd be comfortable with that. Like, and look, he can do some things, and like he's using his legs more again now. He's healthy. Like he's playing pretty good football. I just feel like speaking of the CJ Stroud thing, I just feel like that's a boneheaded play waiting to happen.
Yeah. All right. I have here how Drake Maye must play in the postseason. I think it just has to be well. We can kind of skip over this and just get to the Chargers game quickly on Sunday. For the people who are just listening now, by the way, Mike and I talked about each of these teams and why the Patriots would beat the Chargers or lose to the Chargers, why they would beat the Texans, why they would lose to the Texans, why they would beat the Bills or lose to the Bills in our last episode. So you can go back to that. All of it is evergreen. You can get kind of a light playoff preview before I dive into the Chargers game fully later on this week. But to kind of dip our toes again in LA, battlegrounds that could swing this game, where we understand it's May versus Herbert. There's the Harbaugh versus Mike Vrabel, but you're looking at and going, this matchup is actually one that could swing this in a way that you look back and go, maybe we should have talked about this a little bit more.
Well, I think we are talking about it, but it's their O-line versus your D-line. Because we talked about the pass blocking element of it, which, as I said, they're dead last in pass rush win rate, 31st in run block win rate, 24th in rush EPA. I want to make them one-dimensional. Like I said, I'd rather put that on Herbert just because I like your matchups on the outside. But don't let them run. Amari and Hampton is good. And I liked Hampton coming out almost as much as I like Genty. And obviously Genty, we know what happened to Vegas, so it's hard to say. Hampton came back from the injury. He's run really well. And again, that offensive line is maybe on their third left tackle. Like there's second right tackle. Like there's all kinds of things happening there. No Slater, no Alt. Bobby Hart was playing 2 weeks ago. Poor Bobby Hart was getting just absolutely destroyed by Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. You don't have those guys, but maybe Caleb Vaughn can throw it back a little bit against someone like Bobby Hart, who's just a journeyman who's been put in a tough situation. So to me, like, don't let them run the ball on you. Don't let them enforce their will, because if they do, they'll keep handing it off. They would hand the ball off to Amari and Hampton 25 times. They wouldn't have any problem with that. In fact, if you hit Jim Harbaugh with the true serum, he would say, that's perfect. If we get 25 carries from Hampton, we're probably going to win the game, or we're in it last drive, fourth quarter. And so to me, take that out of the equation, kick their ass up front, force them to throw, and take your chances with your guys on their guys on the outside.
And that's what that would mean. Like, if you have the time and score in your favor, or it's close, you can run the ball. It's not that you just magically hand the ball to Amari and Hampton and you suddenly have points on the board. If he's not going anywhere, neither are you. But I think people know that by now. I hit on this already, and it's just such a striking philosophical difference where, again, the Chargers defense, led by Jesse Minter, who might have had coaching interviews soon, I'm not sure, has really stayed true to the trend of the last 10 years where defenses get lighter and they get faster, and they're going to start in too deep, and they'll spin down sometimes, and you've got some disguise here, but they're not bulking up and playing base. So your typical front seven, whatever combination of defensive linemen and linebackers, they're staying small and they're still stopping the run. The Patriots' run game isn't good enough to the point where they'll be afraid and probably deviate from what they do. But I'm really curious what counters, if any, that when Josh McDaniels does go to, as he's done on 25% of their offensive snaps the last 3 weeks, to those 6 offensive lineman packages or 22 personnel. Is Jesse Minter still cool playing nickel? Because then if you're not, you're doing something that is out of character for you, and by definition at this point of the season, not as good at. And there's something to be said for playing to your identity and your strengths. And of course, the opposite of going to go attack somebody's weaknesses at all costs and trying to find a happy medium. I also kind of like the mess around and find out. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. You're sitting down at a poker table and you're like, I don't really care what my cards are now, but I want to see how people react to a very aggressive early play. And then you kind of set that image, and maybe you can play off of it after. You know, this is kind of like, again, the opening script. We're going to run out 7 different personnel groupings and 7 different snaps. What do you do? How do you handle this? I think they probably have a pretty good idea how they'll handle that. But again, you get punched in the mouth if you're LA in that opening drive. You wobble a little bit. I don't know. And they're just a good team, and they tackle well. So this isn't like exploiting so-and-so. But But that side of the ball, I think, is going to decide it because I just think the Patriots are going to give up 20-24 to Justin Herbert, and that's just what it's going to be. So anyway, that's kind of my battleground. And there's some special team stuff here because suddenly, like, the Patriots forgot how to block kicks and cover kicks.
Yeah.
Which is really, really poorly timed. And I threw out Jeremy Springer as like, maybe, I don't know, coaching changes always happen every offseason, and maybe not. That was maybe 3 weeks ago. Talk about bad juju to put on someone. He's not been on the show.
But Chargers, I think, are 5th in special teams DVOA.
Yep. And he was inherited, and I'm not making any predictions or certainly wishing anyone to change. I think Thomas Brown will leave just because he'll get a better opportunity, and that's a great thing. But it's not too good. So anyway, those are some battlegrounds, and we'll have a full preview later this week.
Yeah, just on your Derwin James, right? Like, why do they feel comfortable playing small? Because Derwin James can play the run like he's a linebacker, but also, again, a little Aaron Schatz thing. He's the highest rated by DVOA slot corner, even though he's a safety. He plays a ton of slot corner for them in the league this year. So he gives them that versatility of he's a bigger body who can play in the box, but he can also, you want me to cover Steph Diggs? Well, maybe I don't want to make my living doing that 20 times a game, but I can do it a few times. Like, I'm not, bet you got to go there. No, you might go there and, as you said, mess around, find out.
Kayshon Boutte is another interesting case, right? Because this is the number 1 deep ball defense in the league. And here's another one, battleground. Strength on strength. You don't have a better deep ball passer in the league than Drake Maye. Chargers prioritize this. Again, the old, we're going to force you to drive the field. Like, this is some novel strategy, but they're really good at it. Mm-hmm. If they do devote extra attention to Diggs, those one-on-one balls down the sideline, is it Kayshon Boutte, is it Kyle Williams? Who comes up with those? Because those are obviously just one play, but it's one moment that could kind of swing a quarter, could swing a drive, could swing maybe the game. That's all I got on the Chargers. We got plenty more time to talk about the Chargers.
Yep.
We have left Dad Pod, Okay, Let Me Have It, and Mailbag. It's not a big mailbag, but I wanted to give the people a chance to ask us some questions, and we'll get them some answers. What would you like to lead off with?
Let's just let you have it. It was really early, and when I was doing if you put Dobbs in for May, and you're like, that's sports radio, bite me, all right? Just bite me. That's it. That's all I got.
Oh, wow. I thought you were going somewhere with that.
No, just
bite me. So my sister used to say when she was like 10 or 11, bite me. Then the problem was my idiot friends turned that on her because they would just put it to a little voice. Bite me, Juliet, bite me. And then she stopped saying it, as you could predict. Mine was also early. You did Dad Pod, which first of all was just I'm sick. And second of all.
It's my son. No, he's a girl.
I'm letting you have it.
Yeah.
I did a show last week with Matt McCarthy, and we rightfully got roasted by a caller 3 hours later because the first 30 seconds were him cleaning stuff, which probably should have happened. That's not my fault, earlier than when the show started. But me just observing, be like, wow, you're really cleaning. If someone's tuning in at 2 o'clock, or no, we were doing Z&B, at 10 o'clock to listen to Zoe and Bertrand, you just hear two guys talking about how clean the studio is, you should absolutely turn the station right then. If people are tuning in now to hearing how you have the sniffles, their team's going to the Super Bowl. Who cares? Said as someone who made that similar mistake at the beginning. But okay.
Okay. All I'm going to say in response to that is the people know me.
This is true.
They know about my, they just know me. They understand.
You have more allies, by the way.
The way this twisted brain works.
My friend group, not the ones who used to make fun of my sister when I was a teenager, but some college friends who were like, I really usually agree with you, but Giardi, this point was so stupid. But they're like, when I watched Drake against the Ravens that fourth quarter, I did think about the greatest Super Bowl ever played and that comeback against the Seahawks. I said, okay.
See, your friends smarter than you.
Yeah, most of them are. All right, Dad Pod. So I had two things. Number one is a very small time. I finally finished Stranger Things, which is now the overnight watch because it's just me, baby, except for when baby wants to wake up. And there's been this strange, to use a word, kind of wait for when my mother-in-law, who comes down after I finish the overnight shift at 3:30 or 4 and then go back upstairs and fall asleep, for a couple hours. I'm so curious, like when she's going to walk in and how I can explain what the hell is going on, because there's just no way to do it in a season in which like the whole show unto itself is complicated. And I really like it and have enjoyed it. Not as much the last season, but whatever. I'm choosing gratitude, not to critique the writing. It's like, there's just so much happening and so many, wait, shouldn't this have happened? That's a monster, but they're in this place and that mind and that dimension. And this is real world, but that's also the military, even though like, why would they be there and this and that? And so I've tried and then I just stopped trying, but I'm always so curious when I'm going to hit pause as she walks downstairs and I hand the reins over. But now I finished the show. So those like little moments of just like, I don't even know where the fuck to start. Because you know what? I could just say anything. And I'm sure not because she's gullible, not whatsoever, would believe me, because anything is possible in that show. Number 2 is there is a brewing, as I continue with my in-laws here in Connecticut. We've been outstanding. We love having the help with the baby who just turned, about to turn 2 months. We've got some division within the house about how long certain people close to me want the Patriots to remain in the playoffs. And I completely understand it. And I hear it and I listen to it, and it is a little tiring driving an hour, 45 minutes to work most days of the week, but this is what I've chosen. It's totally worth it. Not a problem. Not complaining. It's just a little hard though. I have great news at work and great days at work and good stories and people smiling, and then come home. They won. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Sorry. Like I'm somehow responsible for that. You know, it's not like quite like people on Twitter telling me when I like talk about play calling and they're like, do this. I'm like, I'm not Josh McDaniels, but thanks for stopping by. Like I didn't win the game, but I don't know. It's interesting because I'm going to be very excited to go cover this first home playoff game in 7 years. And in the back of my mind being like, oh, the people I love most are really hoping I come home with a loss.
So I'll just share with this, you know, as mine are older, sort of grown up. They kind of knew around the house. Like I was always conflicted. Right. Because especially when they're little and you just like things change, like, you know, they hit certain age points and it's like they did this, that happened. When did that happen? Like this, you like literally would just like blink an eye and it would miss. And like I had some epic playoff runs, Bruins and whatnot, where I was on the road for 2 months, basically, like really did not see the family in 2011 in particular, 2013 too. And it was like, so they know like this is what dad loves to do. Dad also loves being with us. So it's like, he's sad to go, but it's also like, this is what I do. And this is, he gets excited about it's like that. They understood the conflict. And then when it was over, it was like, there was almost an apology, like, sorry, it's over. Cause I knew I would sink into a little bit of a depression when it was over. Cause this
sorry,
is
I have to spend more time with you.
This is what you do. You're in this, I'm a very routine oriented guy. So you like workouts, food, the whole thing. Like, so you just get into this.
Oh, do you work out?
All the time. So you just get into
more.
You get us in this flow, and all of a sudden it's like, well, the guys always say the treadmill, you're running full speed and then it just stops. And there's no real way to dismount from that. So it was always this like, you know, they give me a hug. And then, you know, a couple of days you're back into like, boy, you're really annoying. I can't wait for the next quote to start, that sort of thing. But yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. My answer is to get sick. When the treadmill stops, my body is like, oh, by the way, we're done. Okay. When you're sitting at home, we're going to crash now. This reminds me, my wife has a friend, or maybe she doesn't have a friend, but this person created their own Jets jersey as a kid, and not with a real attachment to the Jets, but he was a first-round pick in 2006. It was an offensive lineman, like a white T-shirt, green marker, name across the back, number drawn on, which of course is like all squiggly because markers on cotton T-shirts not going to go well. Care to guess who that player was? I kind of gave it away if you can remember their draft history.
First round pick.
06. I'm almost positive.
Angle?
Close.
DeBrickashaw Ferguson.
And it's not my wife's friend. It's my wife. Not a Jets fan, by the way. Not a Jets fan. But every time I go to that stadium and the press box is across from the Ring of Honor and you just see all of the names, of which there are not many, they're the Jets, I just have to take the picture and send to her. No attachment to him anymore. It was just like, wow, this guy's name is really strange. And turns out they inducted him into the Jets Ring of Honor maybe a couple of years ago, and like couldn't be a more God-fearing person the way he was talking at halftime. Which I don't know how you could, I don't know, be of certain faith and also be a part of the Jets, because God is clearly just giving you all of his hardest battles. But to put all of that aside, very nice guy, very strange jersey, very strange choice, makes me laugh, and I still think of it. But again, not a Jets fan because, you know,
my old agent, my only agent, who I haven't used in a long time, was his agent. He represented players, and he represented DeBrick. So
what did he say about D-Brick, as he's known in some parts?
Yeah, I think he loved D-Brick. Said he was just the greatest dude. And yeah.
Okay, let's do mailbag before we lose more people to strange Jets t-shirt stories 20 years ago. Henning is looking ahead.
Okay.
Realistically, among the Patriots free agents, who is coming back next season? Take your pick. So he gave a screenshot, a list, which is nice. He includes some restricted free agents, but here are the unrestricted guys: Vidarian Lowe, Austin Hooper, K'Lavon Chaisson, Khyiris Tonga, Jalen Hawkins, Jack Gibbons. So who is coming back is what he asks.
The last three: Tonga, Gibbons, Hawkins. Chaisson's going to be too expensive, which I think we talked about maybe last.
Yep. Good as gold.
Who else was on the list?
Not reporting, by the way. Just follow the history of the market and the position, the age. He's 26, yada yada. Younger than Keon White.
Yeah, Vidarian Lowe. Someone's going to pay Vidarian more money than they're going to be willing to pay him as a swing tackle. Decent 4-game audition for
Hooper.
I just wonder if they're going to eventually, like, we need somebody younger.
Yeah.
We're still invested in Hunter one more year. We've got to find somebody.
Get like a day 2 pick in there, and it develops, learns under Hunter Henry, and then takes his job in 2027. Yep. I'm with you. The interesting case is going to be Hawkins, because Quentin Lake, the Ram safety, just came off the market for 3 years, 42. And I don't think Jalen Hawkins is going to get a lot. But you talk about the traditional box score stats, just added another interception, and he's got a sack. I think there's a forced fumble in there. Yep. Good locker room guy. My sense is from afar and listening to him speak, he might be willing to take a little less to stay. I don't know that. But there's also a sense of, okay, how many more big contracts are you going to get if you're Jalen Hawkins? So that one's harder to pick out, and I'm sure they'll hit a limit and say, we want you to stay, but this is where we're going to be. Then the downside is, okay, he walks. Del Pettis is your number 2 safety, and I like Del, but we just talked about Craig Woodson struggling. Jalen Hawkins might be able to leverage them into some more money, but I agree he's going to stay. Khyiris Tonga, I think, should stay. Jack Gibbons, I think I'm with you. Yeah, I guess we're in total agreement. Hooper, maybe if he wanted to come back for pennies, it's a guy who's just bounced around the league forever. And you're like, well, we're not going to say no, but like, take it or leave it. So yeah, 3 out of 6.
He's like $5 million this year, isn't he?
Yes. Yep. Low I could also see. I don't know. Like, yeah.
I don't know if they can pay. Can you pay him $5 million?
I mean, you aren't
1-year contract, $5 million up to $7 million in potential with bonuses and
he also re-signed before free agency started.
He did.
So to me, that says like I really don't want to go anywhere. And for a 1-year deal. Okay, a couple more and then we'll get out of here. We have on Twitter, Jonathan. Any news on calls him the Tonga truck? That name not approved, by the way. But they were your kids into Mulan?
I don't think so.
So there's a big character. I looked this up before he came on the show. That his siblings used to call him as a kid, because obviously Khyiris Tonga was humongous. And who's the name of the fat guy in Mulan? This is suggested by Google. Chen Po. Anyway, we'll go with Chen Po before Tonga truck, just because there's a little history there. Anyway, when he's back in the lineup along with Williams and Barmore, will the run defense get back to its early midseason form? Is the question.
I think it could. I mean, and you get Spillane back there too, and we know what a good job he had done before he got hurt, so it's possible. He had, by the way, and I didn't notice this 2 weeks ago, so if he had it and I didn't see it, I did see it last week. He had a walking boot.
Yes. Oh, the biggest walking boot I've ever seen.
Yes, but I didn't see that 2 weeks ago. Now, I might have just missed it, but I definitely saw it last week.
When you and I last talked, not last week, 2 weeks ago, when I was last sitting here, we spoke right after the injury. That is why I said I didn't expect him to play the next week, because he was in a walking boot almost immediately.
There you go.
So there you go. I don't think it'll get to its early season form. I think it'll be good enough. I think you could be average. I think you could be just above average. But I mean, that was like historically dominant. So again, the Chargers offensive line is not good, pass protecting or run blocking. I don't know. It's just such a jump for guys who are starting to come back. You'd rather have Tonga not come in cold, Robert Spillane not come in cold, to ask them all to coalesce immediately, even this late in the season. I just don't see it. Yep. Kyle Marston, quickly, with the Chargers O-line woes, do you think this can be a game where Milt Williams has a performance like last year's Super Bowl? No, just because that was all-time, and yes, he is not totally healthy. But I like where your optimism's at, Kyle.
I could see him getting to the quarterback here, but yeah, I don't know about that level.
Drew, looking ahead to next season, do you think the Pats should look for a more experienced defensive coordinator? Zach Core has done a commendable job. Commendable, not a word you see a lot on Twitter, but I appreciate Drew's maturity. But Jim Schwartz potentially coming available. Could they move on?
I mean, Jim and Vrabel have a history, but my feeling would be that if Big T is back, Big T gets the opportunity again to be the defensive coordinator of the football team, and Zach goes to a secondary role.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree. The Schwartz thing is interesting. If he was going to take a bridge year, that's how I could see him in New England. This guy's just been so experienced, been a head coach, defensive coordinator, multiple spots, had success. Again, the Browns didn't fire their head coach because Jim Schwartz didn't do his job. It was a lot of the other coaches, but it would more be like what Vrabel just did in Cleveland. Schwartz maybe comes here to New England. Not that he needs it. He would have to want to do it and take it easy. Will he? I don't know.
Yeah, and Haslam said today he'd like him back. So whoever the new coach is, he's trying to influence that. So
if the history of that franchise is not evidence enough that like it's okay to turn down a high-paying job, or a great job that you want because ownership and management is that bad, I don't know what else to tell you. Like this goes for all walks of life. You have a bad boss, you have some crazy ass management. There is nothing you can do about it. Just ask a Browns fan. Okay. We've gone long. This has been another fun Mike Giardi Monday. I hope next week's is not our last one because you are sick now. You will be tired and sick after an 8 p.m. Sunday night game against the Chargers. But look, bottom line is I'm really glad playoff football is back in Foxborough. It is going to be an electric atmosphere. It's going to be cold. I think it's going to be a really close game. I'm going to dive more into the numbers and the tape and the Chargers coming up. We'll have another episode in a couple of days. And then after that, this is why we all do it. And it's been 7 years since they were at home and in the playoffs. It's been 4 years since they were in the playoffs. The game that everyone's like, oh, what, are they really going to go to Buffalo and win? No, they weren't. And just want to take a minute to appreciate it because it's been a successful season. I wrote as much yesterday, but like now we're really looking ahead and now everything's on the table. And this is the best football month of the year.
It is. This season has been the most fun we've had in a little while, but it's not just because they won a lot of games, which obviously helps. I think it's just generally been a really good room. And I know there are some things that have popped up in the last week or so, but in general, players, media, we've kind of gotten along. There's a good give and take there. Vrabel bust balls, but it's, like it's just been a fun year. It's just for some of the guys that have lived through it. I think, we saw Ramondre post game and, Ramondre's had a really difficult last year, between his father passing away and things that happened at the beginning of the season with the fumbles and people crying for him to be cut. And he mentioned how his mom was there and I wish my dad was there. And you just sort of saw like a little glint in his eye of like, or, a little tear maybe. And it was just like, there's a bunch of good stories on this football team. And I'm happy for some of these guys that lived through a couple 4-13 seasons to be having this moment.
Totally agree. Especially guys who handled it like Ramondre did and has grown up through some of this. And, not everyone did. And a lot of those guys are gone. And It's partly because of that. So I think that's well put. I'm not going to add anything more. I'm going to go upstairs and be on baby duty and then be up at radio early in the morning, then drive back to Connecticut. And then we're going to start Wednesday with Mike Vrabel and locker room and a whole other week. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
All right. Good stuff.
I'll see you Wednesday.